Hello everyone and welcome to part 4 of the BMC 1.8 litre diesel engine rebuild. Okay, what we're going to look at is the assembly of the block, okay, with the addition of the head studs, okay, and a few of the ancillary items including the other stud bolts that you might find around the motor itself. Okay, point to note then, the stud bolts, okay, two different lengths on the BMC 1.8 litre diesel. Okay, on the fuel lift pump side, okay, you've got a row of 4 high or longer head studs, okay, and then the rest of them are the shorter head studs. Okay, when you're looking at the head studs themselves then, okay, the end that goes into the motor has an etch along the threads. Okay, that's the end that's going into the motor itself. Okay, what I do is I just spray a little bit of penetrating oil, a little bit of WD-40 into the recesses, obviously inspecting that the receiving threads are good, okay, and then just first of all screw them in hand tight. Okay, when you physically can't tighten them up anymore by hand, all I simply do to lock them in place is put on one of the head stud bolts. Again, making sure the threads match up nicely. Okay, again down to the bottom of the thread. We're not looking for Goliath strength here, but just grab hold of yourself. The nearest I find is an 18mm spanner. Okay, and then just gently turn it. Okay, and you'll see the main stud still rotating deeper into the receiving thread housing. Okay, just over hand tight then until the stud stops rotating. Okay, and then on this ratchet spanner, just reversing the thread. Okay, and if you gently turn it, your stud nut will come off. Okay, and that's the first of your head studs in place. Okay, we're just going to work our way around the engine, remembering that 3 of them were already seized in place. Okay, they've subsequently been removed and replaced, but we'll just go around fitting the remaining head studs. Okay, moving on to fitting some of the ancillary items then. We're just going to do these piece by piece as the build continues. What I've done is I've inserted the oil filter adapter, okay, just a little bit of lubricating penetrating oil around the outside, and at the moment that's just done hand tight. Once I put the filter on and torque that up, okay, that will make that sit fully home nice and secure. Moving around to the other side of the engine then. Okay, towards where the gearbox adapter plate should sit, okay, you've got these 2 holes down the bottom. One of them's for an oil feed pipe which bypasses from the right to the left of the engine, and then the lower one that you see down here is for the oil pressure relief or oil pressure bypass. Okay, simple components. Okay, it's simply an end cap, copper washer, the spring, and then the if you want to call it the valve itself. Okay, all I've made sure is that it's slightly lubricated inside here. Okay, all clean of debris. As I mentioned, new washer, new valve, and we simply do, okay, is that sits inside like that, like so. Push the valve down till the thread just catches. He says, can be tricky doing this with one hand. Okay, and then get it to bite. Okay, and then do it hand tight. Okay, I'm quite limited with the tools I've got with me today, so the nearest the closest match that I found at the moment is a 26mm. Okay, and then with 26mm, just torque that up, but not too overly tight, just hand tight. So whilst we're on the subject of some of the ancillary components, I'm just going to go over the injectors themselves. Now these injectors are original to the engine. Okay, and over the years, some of them have suffered a small amount of pitting on the very top assembly, okay, but nothing that affects the operability of the injectors themselves. Now the banjos will be replaced. I just put these ones in here to check the threads. I did have to put a new nozzle into one of them, okay, however the rest of them all cleaned up fairly nicely. Okay, there's plenty of videos on YouTube that cover injector renovations, okay. So all I've simply done is disassembled them, given them a thorough clean, put the service kit in there, which is the new top washers, the nozzle I've already mentioned, okay, and then when it comes to assembly, the heat shield washers and the atomizer washers will go in there, followed by inserting them into the cylinder head themselves, okay, and then torquing down the relevant nuts to secure them. Now I did mention the pitting and the overall condition. What I'll do is I'll give these another quick sort of sand buff, but as a force of habit these will be painted to match the cylinder head. A lot of people don't paint their injectors. I do, just as a force of habit. Okay, so we're just going to have a look at one of our accessory items that we're putting onto the block now, okay, which is the water pump. Okay, the reason that I've put it on now is that this unit, the water pump, is independent from the front mounting plate. Okay, it's got a replacement new gasket, okay, high quality gasket, because the last thing you need is coolant leaking out everywhere. Okay, point to note then, when I'm doing my rebuilds, okay, I never recycle a gasket. As good as they look, okay, you never know how long they've been on there. You know, gaskets do fail, but if you've put a new gasket on every piece that requires one, okay, you can sort of give it a bit more of a guarantee. Okay, it's painted up to match the rest of the block, the mobile green, and it's simply held on by 4 retaining bolts. Okay, one here, one on the right by the intake, okay, and then one directly underneath. Okay, if you are recycling your water pump, then just have a look at the back. Okay, I'm just going to use another one as an example. Okay, this is a brand new unit that's painted up for another engine, but you're just looking at the condition of the veins, if you want to call them that, behind. Okay, just making sure that they're free from corrosion. Okay, no big chunks missing out of it. Okay, and that the actual pump itself is free moving. Okay, when you come to fit it, then just ensure that this is clean and degreased. Okay, making sure that there's no debris of legacy gaskets on there. Okay, I personally don't use any sort of gasket compound. That's what the gasket's for. So I'll remove that bit of overspill green paint on this one for the other engine. But I'll just make sure that's completely free from any grime, give it a degrease, okay, and just mount it. Okay, it can only go on one way, and just make sure that it's torqued up as per the specs onto the front of the block. So whilst we got the block upside down, then we're going to start refitting the tappets. Now these tappets were relatively new, okay, they're still in good reusable order. As they're removed, okay, they're labelled up to ensure that they go in exactly the same position that they came out of the block, okay, which is very important. You know, any items that you're reusing, push rods, valves, anything like that, it all needs to go in exactly the same order that it was removed. As you can see at the moment, there's 2 of the tappets already in their recesses. Okay, so block upside down with the open then facing towards, in essence, where the cylinder head would be. Okay, all I do then when I'm refitting these, ensuring they're going in exactly the same order. Okay, so this being number 3, just give it a light coating of oil. Okay, the engine oil that's going to be used on the engine. Okay, should be wearing gloves because of dermatitis and stuff like that. Okay, once it's been given a light coat, okay, it should simply just fall in place. If you've got long enough fingers, then just place them through this recess here or this recess here, depending on what side you're working on. Okay, and you should be able to freely move that up and down. Okay, if there's any friction, anything like that, okay, you may need to have another look at the tappet and make sure it's not worn down evenly or anything like that.